Module 3, Lesson 21's objective is to solve two-step word problems involving multiplying single-digit factors and multiples of 10. The directions for this page say, use the RDW process for each problem. Use a letter to represent the unknown. RDW stands for Read, Draw, Write. That's the process we use when solving any word problem. So on item 1, let's begin by reading. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Use a tape diagram to find the total number of minutes in 6 hours and 15 minutes. Now let's underline the important details. 60 minutes in 1 hour. Tape diagram. Total number of minutes in 6 hours and 15 minutes. Now that I've read the problem, I'll begin by drawing. Drawing doesn't necessarily mean a picture. It could also mean using an equation to show your work. But the directions here tell us to use a tape diagram. So that's what I'll draw first. We know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So each segment of my tape diagram will have a 60 in it. Since I'm looking for the total number of minutes in 6 hours and 15 minutes, I will first draw 6 segments of my tape diagram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's for 6 hours. Remember, each hour is equivalent to 60 minutes, so I'll put a 60 in each section of my tape diagram. Now my picture shows 6 hours, but I need to add another section to my tape diagram, and that will be the 15 minutes. All right, this part here will equal H. And this part here will be equal to T. Now let's define that. H is the minutes. I'll just put mins for minutes in 6 hours. And T is going to be equal to the minutes, or I'll put mins again, in 6 hours, 15 minutes. Now I've done the drawing part with the picture, but let's go ahead and do an equation to show how to solve this as well. So let's figure out what H is. 6 groups of 60 is the same as H, or the minutes in 6 hours. Now, let's use the strategy we used in Lesson 20 to solve this problem. I know that it's easier to multiply by 10 than by 60, so I'll write it this way. 6 times 60 is the same as 6 times 6 times 10. I use 6 times 10 because that's the same as 60. Now that is the same as 6 times 6 times 10. All I did was use the associative property of multiplication and move the parentheses. Now 6 times 6 is 36, and then we'll multiply that by 10. I know the trick is anything times 10 is simple to do. Just write down that number that you're multiplying by 10 and throw on a 0. So H equals 360. Now, let's figure out what T equals. T is the same thing as 360 plus 15. I'll write that vertically. I'll make sure I line up my numbers. I always have to line up my 1s and 10s in the right place so that I get the right answer. 0 plus 5 is 5. 6 tens plus 1 10 is 7 tens. And 3 groups of 100 plus nothing is 3 groups of 100. So T equals 375. All right, I've done the R part, I've read the problem, I've done the D part, I've drawn out how to solve the problem. The only thing I have left to do is the W part. That means write the answer. Since it's a word problem, I'm going to write the answer in words. We were supposed to find out the total number of minutes in 6 hours and 15 minutes. There are 375 minutes in 6 hours. HRS means hours. And 15 minutes. Now, you probably don't have enough room to put all of this on your paper. So whenever you don't have enough room, remember, you can always do your work on a piece of scratch paper and staple it to your homework sheet. That way, you have plenty of room to show your work and do each part that's required in the RDW process. Now let's look at item 2. Ms. Lemus buys 7 boxes of snacks. Each box has 12 packets of fruit snacks and 18 packets of cashews. How many snack packets does she buy altogether? Now let's underline the important details. 7 boxes of snacks. 12 packets of fruit snacks. 18 packets of cashews. Now I'm going to highlight the question. How many snack packets does she buy altogether? If you don't have a highlighter, you could use a yellow crayon or circle the question. In order to solve this problem, I think I'll use a tape diagram to begin with. I want to show what it would look like for the number of packets that she buys that are fruit snacks. So we know that she bought 7 boxes. So in each of those boxes there were 12 packets of fruit snacks. My tape diagram here will have 7 sections since she bought 7 boxes. I'll label this F for fruit snacks. Inside of each of those boxes were 12 packets of the fruit snacks. So I'll label my tape diagram this way. Now, I will go ahead and show a tape diagram for cashews, and I'll label it with a C. Again, there were 7 boxes. And inside of the 7 boxes, also there were 18 packets of cashews. So I'll label my boxes with an 18. F is the same thing as number, which I can write with a sign that looks like that, of packs of fruit snacks. C will equal the number of packs of cashews. Cashews are a kind of nut. All right, now let's go ahead and do the equations. I'll draw a line here so they don't get mixed up with the other ones. There were 7 groups of 12 for the fruit snacks. I think I'll go ahead and decompose the number 12 to be a 10 and a 2. Now I'll rewrite that. 7 times 10 plus 7 times 2 equals F. As you can see, I'm using the distributive property of multiplication. 7 times 10 is 70, and 7 times 2 is 14. 70 plus 14 is 84. Now let's figure out how many cashews there were. I'll go ahead and write the equation first. There were 7 groups of 18. That's going to equal C. I'll decompose 18 to be a 10 plus 8. Now I'll use the distributive property of multiplication. This is going to be 7 times 10 plus 7 times 8. 7 times 10 is 70, plus 7 times 8 is 56. Now I'll go ahead and add 70 plus 56, and that will equal 126. All right, now I know how many packets of fruit snacks there are in 7 boxes, and I know how many packets of cashews there are in 7 boxes. Now I need to make my last equation. That's going to be the fruit snacks plus the cashews will equal the total. So fruit snacks is 84, plus the cashews is 126, and that equals the total. I'll go ahead and write it vertically. 84 plus 126. 4 plus 6 is 10. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 1 more is 11. One plus 1 is 2. Kind of running out of room here. So T equals 210. How many snack packets does she buy altogether? She buys 210 snack packs. As you can see, that took a lot of room to solve all those problems. And I don't have scratch paper here that I can use so that you can see what I'm doing. I would recommend you use scratch paper. That way, everything will be much neater on your paper. Don't forget to label your problems so your teacher knows what problem goes with that scratch paper. Then staple it to your homework sheet. Finally, let's look at item 3. Tamara wants to buy a tablet that costs $437. She saves $50 a month for 9 months. Does she have enough money to buy the tablet? Explain why or why not. Let's underline the important details. Tablet costs $437. Saves $50 a month for 9 months. Now let's highlight the question. Does she have enough money to buy the tablet? And underline the important part of the directions as well. Explain why or why not. All right, now it's time to draw in order to show how this problem was solved. First, I will go ahead and draw a tape diagram that shows Tamara's savings of $50 a month for 9 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 segments of the tape diagram represent 9 months. Now, let's put $50 inside of each section because that's how much she saved each month. All right, now I'll go ahead and put a bracket here and label this entire thing S. And S will mean the money or dollars saved. Let me go ahead and erase part of the notes that I have in my margin so I have room to work this problem out. All right, now let's write an equation. 9 groups of $50 equals S. So if I have 9 times $50, I think to myself, it sure is easier to count by tens or multiply by tens than 50s. So I'll go ahead and write it out this way. 9 times 50 equals, or is the same as, 9 times 5 times 10. Because 5 times 10 is 50. I can use the associative property of multiplication to change the placement of the parentheses and write it again this way. 9 times 5 times 10. We know that 9 times 5 is 45. And then bring down the times 10. And when multiplying by 10, all I do is put the number that I'm multiplying it by and then throw on one more 0. So S equals $450. The question is, does she have enough money to buy the tablet? Since $450 is more than $437, which is the amount that's needed to buy the tablet, then I know she does have enough money. Yes, she has enough to buy the tablet. You could even write over here $450 is greater than $437. That way your teacher knows how you were able to determine whether or not she had enough to buy the tablet.